Level 1. The call. You're elbow deep in a Honda Civic when your phone rings. Unknown number. London area code. You almost don't pick up. The voice on the other end is calm, measured. British accent. Not the kind that comes from a university. The kind that comes from old money. Your name spoken like he already knows you. Someone passed him your number. A former client. He doesn't say who. There's a collection. The last mechanic retired. He needs someone with discretion. You ask what kind of cars. He pauses. The kind that don't belong on public roads. He gives you an address in Surrey, a postcode that doesn't come up on Google Maps. He tells you to be there Saturday, 7 a.m. alone. Level 2. The property Saturday, pre-dawn. You drive 2 hours through fog and empty roads. The postcode takes you to a gravel lane between two hedgerows. No signage, no cameras you can see. Just a gate made of black steel and a small intercom on a stone pillar. You press the button. The gate opens without a word. The house appears at the end of a quarter-mile driveway. Georgian, white stone. But you're not looking at the house. You're looking at the building beside it. It's bigger than the house. The garage. A man meets you at the entrance. Not the voice from the phone. This one is younger. Suit. Earpiece. He doesn't smile. He scans you. Physically, a wand. Checks your bag. He hands you a non-disclosure agreement on a clipboard. 10 pages. No company name at the top. Just a series of numbered clauses and a blank line for your signature. You read the first 2 pages. The third page makes you stop. It says, in the event of breach, the signatory acknowledges that all remedies pursued will be civil and criminal in nature, with jurisdiction held in 3 separate territories. You sign it anyway. The doors open. Level 3. The collection. Nothing prepares you for this. 42 cars, maybe more, arranged in climate-controlled bays behind glass panels, lighting designed like a museum, temperature held at exactly 17 degrees. You recognize some of them. A 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO, one of 36 ever made. A Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic. You've only ever seen this in textbooks. A McLaren F1 with fewer than 400 miles on the clock. A row of Porsches, 917, 962, Carrera GT, lined up like soldiers. And then cars you don't recognize. Prototypes, one-offs, things built for people who didn't want anyone to know they existed. The man with the earpiece stops at the center of the room. He tells you the owner calls this the archive. He tells you your job is maintenance, diagnostics, and discretion. He tells you the pay is £4,500 a week. Cash, deposited in whatever account you provide. You ask when you meet the owner. He says, when he decides to meet you. Your first task is a 1988 Lamborghini Countach, oil change and a brake fluid flush. You work in silence for 3 hours. Nobody bothers you. When you finish, you find a paper envelope on the workbench, your first payment. In cash, in an envelope with no name on it. You count it on the drive home. £4,500. Exact. You don't tell your wife where it came from. Level 4. The rules. You go back the following Saturday, then the one after that. Within a month, you're there 3 days a week. The young man with the earpiece is named Ellis. He never says his last name. You stop asking. Ellis has a list of rules. He delivers them over time, never all at once, like he's testing how much you can absorb. Rule 1. No photographs, not even of the tools. Rule 2. If anyone asks where you work, you say private consultancy, nothing else. Rule 3. If a car is moved from its bay when you arrive, you do not ask where it went. You do not ask when it's coming back. Rule 4. Some of the cars have tracking devices that are not factory installed. You do not touch them. You do not mention them. Rule 5, and Ellis says this one quietly, like it matters. Some of the service logs you write will not match the actual work done. You record what you're told to record, not what you see. You stare at him. He stares back. You nod. 3 weeks later, you see the first car that doesn't match any registry you've ever found. No VIN, no plates. Paint so dark it looks like it absorbs light. You do the work. You write down what Ellis tells you to write down. That night, you sit in your car outside your house for 20 minutes before going inside. Level 5. The owner 8 weeks in. You arrive and Ellis isn't at the door. A different man is, older, gray at the temples, linen shirt, no suit, no earpiece. He extends his hand. "I'm told you're exceptional," he says. This is the voice from the phone. His name is Hargreave. Just Hargreave, not Mr., not a first name. He walks you through the archive himself that morning. Slowly, like a man walking through a gallery he built from nothing. He stops at the 250 GTO. He tells you he bought it from the estate of a man who died in a tax investigation. He says it with no emotion, like he's describing a weather event. He asks about your background, your training, where you worked before. You answer honestly. Small shops, a stint at a dealership, mostly referrals. He nods. He says, "I need someone who can work on machines that the manufacturers no longer service and no longer admit exist." He pauses. "Can you do that?" You say yes. He looks at you for a long moment. "Good. Your rate is now $8,000 a week, but you come when I call, not on a schedule. When I call." He walks away. You stand there in 17-degree air, surrounded by cars worth more than most countries' GDP, and feel something you haven't felt in a long time. You feel chosen. Level 6. The other work. The first unusual request comes on a Tuesday. A Range Rover arrives at the back entrance, not from the collection. A working vehicle, mud on the arches, a long scratch along the passenger door. Ellis meets you at the gate, hands you a piece of paper with a list. Remove and replace the front bumper. Swap the plates, deep clean the interior, replace floor mats. Dispose of the originals off-site. You look at the car, you look at the paper. There's a dark smear on the inside of the rear door that isn't mud. You do the work. You don't ask questions. 3 days later, you see the same Range Rover in the driveway. Clean, plates changed, like nothing happened. The envelope that week has $12,000 in it. You deposit $7 into your account. Hide $5 in a spot your wife doesn't know about. You tell yourself it's a bonus, for discretion. You tell yourself that for 2 weeks before you stop telling yourself anything. The invitation. Hargreave invites you to dinner. A room in the main house you've never seen. Dark wood, a fireplace that doesn't need to be lit, and 3 other men whose names you're given once and will never hear again. Hargreave sits at the head of the table and talks about cars the way most people talk about their children. With love, with ownership, with the quiet certainty that no one else could understand them the way he does. After the other men leave, he pours you a glass of something amber and expensive. He tells you he's acquiring something new. A car that was seized by a European government 17 years ago during a corruption trial. The case collapsed. The car was absorbed into a private holding. The holding is now dissolving. He needs someone to inspect it in person, authenticate it, sign off on it, in Monaco in 4 days. He slides a passport across the table. It has your photo. It has a different name. He says, "You won't need it to get in. You'll need it to get out if anything goes wrong." You pick it up. He refills your glass. Level 8. Monaco, you fly business class under a name that isn't yours. A car meets you at the airport. The driver doesn't speak. The car is in a private storage facility near the port. Humidity controlled. A man in a suit stands at the entrance with a tablet and a look that says he's been waiting. The car is a 1970 Porsche 917K racing spec, chassis 023. The one that disappeared from a German collector's estate in 2004 and was never reported stolen. Because you can't report a car stolen if the paperwork that proves you own it was forged. You inspect it for 4 hours. It's real. Every rivet, every weld. The engine numbers match a photograph Hargreave showed you before you left. You call Ellis. You say 2 words. It's genuine. An hour later, a wire transfer happens somewhere that isn't your bank account. That night, you eat alone at a restaurant overlooking the harbor. You watch yachts float in the dark. You think about the Range Rover. You think about the passport and about the fact that you are now the only person alive who can authenticate that Porsche and testify to where it's been. You realize you're not just a mechanic anymore. You're a liability. Level 9. The crack. You come back from Monaco and something has shifted. Ellis is colder, briefer. He stops explaining the rules and just gives you instructions. A car disappears from the archive. Bay empty, floor swept clean, like it was never there. You don't ask. 2 weeks later, you get a call from a number you don't recognize. A man's voice says your full name, your real one. He says he knows where you work and he knows what you did in Monaco. He says, "We're not interested in you. We're interested in Hargreave. You help us, you walk away. You don't, and what you signed in Monaco becomes the first thing a prosecutor sees. You hang up and sit in your car in a supermarket car park for 40 minutes. You think about calling Ellis, but you don't. Level 10. The choice. You go back to the archive the next morning. Everything looks the same. Same temperature, same light, same rows of cars worth more than your life. But Hargreave is there, standing by the Ferrari, coffee in hand, like he was waiting. He doesn't say good morning. He says, "Someone called you yesterday." You feel the air leave the room and you agree by saying yes. He nods slowly, looks at the Ferrari. He says, "There are 3 ways this ends. In the first, you tell me exactly what was said and we handle it together. In the second, you say nothing, and within 60 days, both of us are in a room we don't want to be in." He pauses. "What's the third?" you ask. He looks at you. You already know the third. The room is very quiet. The cars sit in their bays like witnesses. You make a decision. Level 11. What you become. You choose the first option. You tell Hargreave everything. He listens without interrupting. When you finish, he sets down his coffee. He makes a call and speaks for 90 seconds in a language you don't understand. Hangs up. He says, "It's handled." You never find out what that means. The number that called you goes dead. 3 months pass without incident. Your rate goes to $15,000 a week. You move your family to a bigger house. You tell your wife it's freelance consulting. She doesn't ask twice. You stop sleeping well and stop recognizing yourself in mirrors. You go to the archive 3 times a week. You do the work. You write down what Ellis tells you to write. You don't ask what's in the cars that arrive dirty. You don't ask what's in the envelopes that get thicker. And some mornings, standing among 42 of the most beautiful machines ever built, you think about the man you were elbow deep in a Honda Civic. You think about how simple everything was. And then Ellis calls your name, and you walk over and you do the work. Because this is how it ends for most people who get too close to money that has no name. Not with a crash, not with handcuffs, just with a Tuesday and a car and a job you can never quit.